All right. So AEW had a very
Yeah.
big 2023.
Yes.
All in
Ooh.
London, 80,000 people.
Anything interesting happen?
AEW has never looked as major league as it did on this show. I think this was a really big moment for AEW, but unfortunately, this big, massive event, their first stadium event that looks so
Mhm.
cool, then they come back to the United States and they're having some of their lowest attended TV shows of all time. So it's
Yeah.
almost like that's great, but now we're comparing what you are
Yeah.
doing in like Philadelphia to that.
Yeah.
And yeah.
It'd be like if, prime ECWs suddenly filled Wembley Stadium.
Yeah, a
You'd
little
just be
like
like,
that.
this doesn't make sense. Like this is, something is wrong here.
But like, okay, that's a very good example. I think ECW never quite like
Mhm.
ECW never drew 10,000. They would get like a few thousand or whatever at the
Yeah. Yeah.
Hammerstein and stuff like that. But yeah, like if they did a big stadium show, you'd be like, wow, because it's a level up, right? Like
Yeah.
you were here, you were like a company where if you got really hot and you were doing great, you could sell out national basketball hockey arena.
Yeah.
And now you sold out a stadium. That's really good. But what kind of hurts is they sold out a stadium in part because they went to a market that has been tremendously underserved for
Yeah.
big wrestling events, right?
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of those tickets were bought because yes, it's
Oh,
AEW, and I'm sure lots of the fans there really like
yeah.
AEW, but also like this is a big event happening at Wembley Stadium for the first time in whatever.
It is one of the
Um,
largest wrestling shows they've seen in decades.
it's the
Like,
largest wrestling by
imagine if
some
this was,
metrics. It's the largest wrestling show of all time.
yeah, but I mean, like,
Yeah.
imagine if, we're a little spoiled here in North America, I guess, because there's
Mm.
wrestling happening all around us. It's not like that out there. So imagine that this was it. This was the first wrestling show that some of these guys had ever seen on this level. You know?
Yeah, yeah. Um, but it's so like I can't help like look at that like that is a tremendous achievement, but then you compare it to like lowering numbers in the states, and obviously like
Hmm.
we know that the numbers for their attendance were going to lower because when it's your first time going into a market, like there's like oh we gotta
Sure.
go, it's much more exciting, and typically it'll go down, but then
Yeah.
if you get hot, put on bigger shows or whatever. And so AEW is now in this stage where they're going back to markets and they're getting much lower attendance. Not like much lower, but like you
Hmm.
look at it and you're like, yep, these are all going down. Um,
Hmm.
and I, it is maybe a sign like the company's not that hot, but it's also just, uh, it's not the first time in the market anymore. The people that you're relying on, they've already gone a couple of times.
Hmm.
So now they feel like they can miss a few shows, right? So but you would
Yeah.
but I think it hurts the feel of the show on TV when you're like there's only 3,000 people in there. And I remember watching Adam Copeland versus Christian in the Bell Center. And like
Hmm.
I think they had 6,000 people there. That's fine, but the Bell Center, like
Is a big place.
yeah, like if I hate to say this, but if WWE put on Edge versus Christian in the Bell
Yeah.
Center, there'd be 15,000 people there.
Easy.
Yeah, you know.
Easy. Like
And
it.
the
Yeah.
other yeah.
It's not the kind of place, and I only say this because I've been to the Bell Center.
Yeah.
It's not the kind of place where like 6,000 people in the Bell Center is going to feel like 600.
Yeah, yeah, because
It's just
it's like it's a major league arena, right?
mhm,
Like this is Montreal. The Canadians are a religion.
mhm,
This is a
mhm,
cathedral. I saw George St. Pierre fight
mhm.
there. It you go in and you feel like this is historic, even though like obviously all the history is in the Montreal Forum and stuff like that. But whatever, it
Mhm.
it kind of transfers over. It's like Maple Leaf Gardens
Yeah,
and the
it's in the
Scotiabank. I don't know.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So to have a minor league crowd in a major league building, like it, it feels bad. And
Yeah.
like, and I watched Edge versus Christian, and I thought it was a cool match, and they told a cool story. But like, half of my thoughts were about like, oh fuck, the attendance is bad, and
Mhm.
you just know that the facing the hard cam, everybody's looking at empty seats.
Yeah. And it's like those guys particularly, you're kind of like, this isn't what you guys left for.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, like
yeah.
this isn't what you wanted.
But like, there's such a difference between when AEW started and you've got like a hot 8,000, a hot 9,000, and you're in smaller arenas. That was the other thing. So they had
Yeah.
larger crowds in smaller arenas when they started. So that like that obviously creates like a different field.
Hmm.
I went to go see AEW in the Coca-Cola Coliseum in Toronto, which holds
Hmm.
about 9,000 for us. It's an awesome venue for
Yeah.
wrestling.
That sounds
Um,
perfect.
yeah, and it was great. But then I also went to the Toronto shows for when they came back for Forbidden Door. Forbidden
Hmm.
Door was awesome because it was packed. Like there
Hmm.
was 14,000 people in there for
Oh
Forbidden
yeah.
Door. So it was
Wow.
packed. But then the collision taping and even the dynamite,
Yeah.
there's like nobody there. And also the tapings go so long because they tape so much Ring of Honor, and people just start leaving, so it's even less.
Hmm.
But worse than that, I think if people are making the decision to be like, all right, let's just go, I'm done with this, the likelihood that they're going to buy tickets to the Knicks show is less, isn't it? Right?
I
Like, you
think
want to
so,
leave
probably.
them wanting more, not leave them going, yeah, I can miss this infantry versus butcher and blade match. And actually, nothing against those guys. I would stay for that match. But
Yeah.
like, like, a lot of people, yeah, I do think that might be contributing to AEW's lower attendance, because
Mhm.
like a few, like, you just shouldn't leave people going like, I gotta go. I'm gonna leave. I'm
Yeah.
just gonna leave. So
Generally speaking, you want them to stick around for the main part of the show.
yeah.
Yeah.
I remember one
Yeah.
show I went to, it was a WWE show, and it closed with The Rock talking for like 30 minutes. That was the main event. And you leave and you're like, God damn, that was fantastic. If he started talking again, I'd go right back in. And that, like, it just felt so different.
Excuse me. The Olympus team
Oh
in there.
man.
It's the good stuff.
But I do like keep those shows shorter so that when you go back in that market, people want to go back. So
True. And it also comes through in the storytelling you're putting out on the product on the TV.
yeah.
People want to come to these events, even if they don't know the details of it. They want to know kind of what's going on.
Mhm.
So if you're telling compelling stories and they're seeing, oh, this is happening, Adam Cole's, taking on this person, then they want to come and see it. And I don't think AEW has got strong enough storylines a lot of the times to pull in that fan that would show up at a WWE show because he thinks that's what wrestling is.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Like right now, the big like storyline, I guess, would be the devil. Who's the devil storyline? Um, I guess it's been like
Lofty
okay.
goal, but
Yeah, it's like, all right, it was, but like, you never know in wrestling what's going to hit and what's not going to hit, because
mm.
Adam Cole and MJF being brochachos, shit, that was like the hottest storyline in the company's had. And so, and
And I feel
it's
like
too
too,
bad
it is
because, yeah.
that kind of thing is the kind of thing that I think that elusive casual fan will
Mhm.
hear someone or see a Brochachos t-shirt and be like, "What is that?" And so, oh, and they'll see AEW and they're probably informed enough to know what AEW is, and they may actually seek it out.
Yeah.
And that kind of appeal is crucial. They just have a problem with the consistency of it.
Yeah. I mean, in that case, like, it's just Adam Cole got hurt, and
Yeah.
it was a freak injury. It wasn't like, hey, I'm doing this dangerous match and I'm putting myself at
Yeah.
risk of being on the shelf. I mean, I'm sure he did those, but that's not
Well,
what
yeah.
caused the injury.
Yeah. What I mean is just
And
more like having strong enough stories at a consistent enough level to
Yeah.
attract, to reach that person, that sort of tertiary person along the
Yeah.
chain of noticing, and that's
Yeah.
that's just something that they haven't really mastered yet. Sometimes through circumstance things go off the rail, but other times it's just kind of like, well, who am I supposed to care about here?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
You know,
and a
it's
lot.
interesting though, because I have been liking the Continental Classic.
Mhm.
I so at first I was like,
It's kind of like college
again, like,
sports to me. I think I get it, but I'm not actually super sure how it's laid out.
oh, how the tournament works out. Oh, it's just like the World Cup.
Yeah.
No, these tournaments, because I watch them in Japan all the time. They are
Okay.
exciting. And it's a great way to make wins and losses matter.
Mhm.
And that was always kind of my chief complaint about AEW is like, I have no faith that if wrestler A wins this match, that they'll be any closer to a title shot or anything like that. At least
Mhm.
like with this tournament though, it's like, okay, yeah, like there's people are moving up in the standings, and some people are, you're like, well, they're eliminated. And then it makes the matches mean more.
Yeah.
And some of the matches have been really, really great. So I actually think like, even though they're performing in front of smaller crowds, the shows have actually been
Mhm.
pretty good lately. I think anyway.
Well, every one of the Continental Classic matches has been, that's what you read about the next day
Oh
on the
yeah,
show.
yeah.
So, I give them credit for that, a hat tip, if you will,
A
to
hat tip.
for all
I
that.
hope they
Yeah,
do more stuff like this. Honestly, like I just feel like AEW needs has lacked structure in the last couple of
definitely.
years, right? Like
That's what
everything's
I'm getting at.
happening
Yeah.
independently of each other. Like everybody needs to work together for a common goal.
Mhm.
Both
Yeah.
Punk and Cody Rhodes want to win the Royal Rumble and finish their story. It's the same road everybody's taking.
Yeah.
Um, I think more things like this could help AEW feel the same way. My
Mhm.
only complaint about the tournament is you don't have your top guys like Kenny Omega's not in the tournament, Chris
Yeah.
Jericho's not in the tournament, and then you have to do like a head canon as to like, well, why would these guys not want to be in the tournament?
They're just tired of being winners. That's what it is. Reaching
They
for the
kind of
brass ring.
explain they kind of explained a few of them. Like Hangman Page said, well, after the Texas Death Match, he couldn't
Mm.
fly for a while because he was injured. They did do an injury angle with Chris Jericho.
Mhm.
Um, like with Kenny Omega, you could be maybe like, oh well, he's got a tag team title shot coming up at World's End, so he didn't want to risk injury or something. You could do a headcanon for that.
Mhm.
Um, you know, but like Jay Lethal has like never won on AEW programming at all. And I like Jay Lethal, he's a really good wrestler, but it doesn't make sense in storyline if this is a sport. You'd be
Yeah.
like, hey, why the hell is he in this tournament? There are so many other
Well,
people that he should be higher in the rankings
these
than
these
him.
opportunities are a lot like title shots. You understand?
Yeah, just
Whoever
you
manages to
just
get
need to
there
ask.
last.
Yeah, like whoever's email found Tony Khan's inbox at the
Yeah.
right time is like, sure, you.
Yeah. Whoever texts, when you're doing that thing like a game or whatever, and a text comes in, you read it, and you're like, oh shit, I gotta deal with that. But you're trying to do it, finish the game,
I
but
gotta reply or
you tap
I
it
can't ignore
anyways, or
this one.
something like
Yeah.
that. And then you're like, I'm in it now,
So if you're able to
ruins the
catch Tony
day.
Khan while he's doing like a Duolingo lesson or like
He's
you
playing
know,
Candy Crush.
playing Candy Crush, or knowing him, he's probably got like some wrestling GM simulator on his phone.